Welcome to another educational video about screen printing by Catspit Productions. Please remember that Catspit Productions sells screen printing supplies and equipment. So if you need any screen printing equipment or the supplies that you'll need to use the equipment, please contact me or visit my website at catspitproductionsllc.com. So today's video is the third and final part in the three-part series of how to print a one-color halftone with spot colors, okay? And if you remember, we have our two film positives. We have two different film positives here. Okay, we have one that's going to print in black ink on a white t-shirt, and we have one that's going to print in white ink on a black t-shirt or a dark t-shirt. Okay, so today we're going to do the printing and show you the print results. We're going to show you the difference in detail from the black printer to the white printer. We're going to show you what they look like. I'm going to give you tips and advice on how to print these manually on your manual rotary screen printing textile press. First, let's review a little bit about what we have set up, okay? First of all, I've got two screens. I've got a black printer with black ink, okay? This is a 230 mesh. It's a yellow dyed mesh. I have a 65 durometer squeegee on there. The white printer is on a 200 mesh so that we can allow a little bit more ink to pass through, right? It's also yellow dyed mesh. And on this one, we have a 60 durometer squeegee, okay? For the most part, a harder squeegee is going to be the better choice for halftones. So when possible, you're going to choose a harder squeegee. Today, I'm using a little bit softer squeegees because we're printing through such high mesh counts. So I'm trying to allow for a little bit more coverage, but it does make me have to print a couple of hits. You know, we're not going to do any hit, flash, hit or anything like that. We're just going to flood and stroke a couple of times to get the ink opacity or get the print results that we want. Please remember that all of my videos are brief summaries. They're brief overviews of the process, and oftentimes I have to omit or leave out a lot of information, or quite frankly, I might forget to add something that I'd like to tell you. So remember that this is the very basics. This is the very core fundamentals of the process, and there's probably a lot more you'll need to know. This is pretty standard. The first thing that we have to do is obviously we got to do some test prints. So get some spray tack on the pallet and make sure that you have enough spray tack to hold the t-shirt down for your test print. Okay, and we're going to put the shirt on here. We're going to do the black printer first. Okay, this is just a test rag. Okay, make sure we got a nice surface here. Okay, and let's do a little test print, shall we? I'm going to flood in the air, hold the screen off of the pallet. This is a 230 mesh, so I'm flooding a little bit extra. You know, and I already know I'm going to need to make a couple of passes to get the nice rich black that I want. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so that's pretty good. Alright, that's very good actually. The black looks nice. So let's take a second for some tips. The first tip that I can give you when you're printing halftones on a manual rotary screen printing press is to make sure that your pallet is perfectly smooth. You'll notice that I used a dirty pallet with pallet tape on it that had been used prior to this. But for best results, you're going to want to peel that pallet tape off and put fresh pallet tape on, or clean your pallet and make sure the pallet is very smooth. Any pieces of debris or wrinkles in your pallet tape or anything like that on the pallet surface, any textures or anything on the pallet surface is likely to show up in the halftone print when you print it manually. So you have to be wary of making sure the pallet surface is absolutely perfectly smooth. Let's print another one, shall we? Okay, we're going to flood in the air. Get a little flooding going. Set her down. Do my stroke nice and even. Nice, smooth, even, consistent pressure. Okay, I'm lifted up again. Flood it well. Nice, smooth, even, consistent pressure, okay? There we go. The second tip I have for you when you're printing halftones manually on a rotary screen printing press is to be as consistent and even with your flood stroke and your print stroke. You have to be able to maintain a systematic methodology of continually providing a smooth flood and print stroke. It has to be the same on every t-shirt. If you vary in pressure from shirt to shirt, the halftone is going to look different. One shirt it may look darker, one shirt it may look lighter, and one shirt the dark tonal ranges may get black and muddy, and the other one it may not, okay? Also, your off contact is going to be low. You want to have low off contact for halftones because detail is important. So we're going to use lower off contact with this, and again, you're going to want to use, most of the time you're going to want to use a harder squeegee. Today I'm using softer squeegees, but that's okay if the squeegee is in excellent shape. It's a cut edge rectangular blade, it's very sharp and in very good shape, okay? Your squeegees, again, will affect the print result as well. If you have any nicks or grooves in the squeegee blade, that can be problematic when you're printing halftones. All right, let's print one more with black ink, and here is another tip for you with halftones. If you have any lint or debris, strings of fiber, threads, hairs, pieces of lint, anything like that, it's going to show up in the print, in the halftone, and not only that, it's going to stick to the back of the screen, and if you don't take it off the back of the screen, it's going to show up on the consecutive or subsequent shirts that you print after that. So having a lint roller is handy. You know, it may slow things down to do it like this, so you might want to just snap the shirt when you're loading it, but basically any lint or debris on the shirt is going to cause problems. You can de-lint the shirt by either using a lint roller or you can perform the screen printer snap. Okay, now that's not guaranteed to get everything off of the shirt. So it may be handy to keep a lint roller in your pocket for those moments when you do see a piece of lint on there. But for the most part, we try not to slow down the process by, you know, adding any extra procedures. So linting on press is an extra procedure. So the screen printer snap is often what we do. When you pull the shirt off and you're between taking the shirt off the stack and going on the pallet, you do the snap. Another important thing to remember is that when you're printing a long run with halftones on a manual screen printing press, you're going to experience what is called dot gain. Okay? Dot gain basically is the buildup of ink around the stencil areas over a long print run. Okay, so when you're printing, you have to watch the print, look at the print every time, and make sure that it is the quality that you want. And make sure that you're not experiencing dot gain to where you're losing detail in the design. Dot gain will naturally occur over longer print runs, and it will become necessary to stop and wipe the back of the screen down in order to bring back the clarity and resolution back to the beginning of the print job, because it's the ink that builds up around the stencil areas when you're printing on the halftone. Also, too much pressure in your flood stroke or your squeegee, your print stroke, can cause dot gain prematurely. So you want to watch for this, and you want to make sure that the halftone isn't getting muddy or it's getting too dark to where you can't see the detail. Okay, so dot gain is something that you have to look out for over longer print runs, or if you find that you're using too much pressure in the printing. Let's check out the white ink on black t-shirts now. Okay, you're going to notice immediately that there's a big difference in detail between my black printer and my white printer. Okay, now we're pushing this through 200 mesh, so I'm going to flood it nice. It's white ink, it's pretty thick stuff, nice and creamy, but I'm going to flood it through, get it through the stencil. It's going to make it easier for me to get the opacity that I want with the fewest print strokes. Okay? Now let's take a look to see what kind of coverage we're getting. Okay, that's not bad. Alright, so you can see, and we'll give you close-up shots of these here. I'll give you close-up shots of these, so don't worry. But you can see that I lost some detail in the white printer. I think my black printer has far much more, I'm literate, far more detail than the white printer. And that has to do with the way we created the white printer. So at this point, you'd have to decide what you want to do. All right, so here's my tip for this. When you finally get on press with your halftone, you're going to need to look at it and look at the test print and decide if the print quality, the detail, the dot, and everything is there to your satisfaction. Okay, one of the ways that you can compare the screen to the film positive is do just that. When you wash out the screen and you're in the washout booth, after the screen is dry and there's no water around, bring your film positive in and hold it up to the screen and see if you were able to actually wash out all of the dot. Now I did that with my white printer, and what I found is that I actually was lacking a lot of the detail in the film positive that I had in the black printer film positive. So that was the way my brother had created the image for the negative. We lost a lot of the detail in the shadow areas. So this will go back to your, either you're going to go back and recreate the film positive and change that so you get the detail in those dark areas if you want them, or perhaps you can go back and re-burn the screen at an underexposure and gain some of that detail. Okay, so these are the things that you got to decide. Today, we're not printing any shirts with white ink, so I'm not really concerned with the loss of detail. The black printer came out perfect. That's the one I want to use. That's the one I was interested in. The white printer is the one we're just showing you to show how you print a positive and a negative in a halftone on black or white shirts, okay? So you can get to see that. The last tip I'm going to give you about screen printing halftones on a manual rotary textile screen printing press is that the shirt itself can affect the quality of the halftone. What I mean by that is that shirts with big, open, gaping knit are not going to be the best type of shirt for a halftone. And here's why. Okay, if the dots are unable to print onto the print surface and instead they're falling in between the gaps or the openings of the knit in the t-shirt, you're going to lose dot. Okay, especially if the dot is of a finer grade. Okay, so what can happen is there's a couple of things that can happen. You can experience a moire. Even though that you burned your screen right and there's no moire on the screen, when you print on a shirt that has a big open gaping knit that's just a horrible print surface, you can see a moire. Bam, like that. Just print it and there's a moire. You can also experience loss of detail. Again, those dots that fall into the gaping knit and just disappear. They're unable to print. They actually stay in the mesh. The ink stays in the mesh because it has nowhere to print. Okay, so the tip here is when you're printing halftones, whether it's manually or automatic, quite frankly, you want to use the highest quality shirt possible. You want the tightest knit for the print surface. The tighter the knit is, the less fuzzy it is, the smoother it is, the more perfect the print surface is, the knit of the garment you're printing, the better your halftone's going to be. So that's very important. And like I said, it can cause moire issues. All right, so I remember, in fact, the job that I set up to print, and I bought some Fruit of the Loom shirts. It had spot colors with halftones, and I started printing it on these Fruit of the Loom shirts, and as a result, I had to push harder and put more ink down in order to get the dot to fill into the knit openings and the gaps. And what happened was it was just tremendous dot gain, and it ruined the halftones. So I was unable to print that particular design on that particular shirt. So that's a very important factor to keep in mind. Here's another quick tip for you. The black printer is a positive printer. And guess what? You can put any kind of dark ink on here, okay? It doesn't have to be black. So here I've got a royal blue, or a pretty dark blue. Okay, and this will print a positive just the way the black ink does. Okay, so you can experiment and get a little creative with it. Looks pretty good. Let me hit it one more time to give my halftone a little bit more richness. There we go. I like that. Now that's pretty cool. So you can experiment with colors and go all Andy Warhol on people and do stuff like this. You see I have a blue ringer t-shirt with the blue ink, okay? Or you could do the blue ringer t-shirt with red ink. As you can see, you can get very creative with a one-color halftone. Okay, there are a lot of things you can do with the one-color positive printer, the black printer. The white printer, you're not going to be able to do this kind of stuff with. It'll look a little funny. So, you know, but experiment. Remember, in the end, what looks good, right? All right, so here's the standard black ink on a black ringer. And yeah, the knit of this particular ringer probably isn't the greatest for halftones, but it did okay, not too bad. Let's take a closer look. All right, so that's not bad at all, actually pretty good. I like the black printer. I think the black printer prints the best. It looks the best, it has the most detail. It's gonna be the most familiar to the eye and the brain. With black ink on a white t-shirt, it's gonna be instantly recognizable and easily identifiable as Ben Franklin. So I like this one. Here's the white printer. This is the negative printer. So you can see that the negative printer with white ink on a black t-shirt basically creates a positive looking image. So that's why it's important to reverse the image to print white ink on black t-shirts. Otherwise, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, all these areas would be reversed. And if you printed white ink with a positive printer on a black t-shirt, it'll look like a negative. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. But you can see that in this area here, and in here, and over here, I lost some detail, as well as over here, we lost some detail. So that would either be one of two things. Either we could go back and play with the exposure, or we would have to go back and work on the film positive. In my case, it was actually the film positive. We were lacking this detail on the film positive. So if I wanted to fix that, I would recreate my film positive and do this over. But since I'm not really printing the white printer, I don't really care. So this is fine just for demonstrative purposes for you guys to see the white printer, the white ink, how the eyes work out and everything like this. If you try to print white ink with the black printer, it's not going to work. Here's the white printer a little bit closer, and you can see the areas in which I lost some of the detail is right here. But obviously somebody who just looks at this shirt and doesn't know anything about that would probably think it's a perfect print and it looks fine. So that's the other thing sometimes you have to consider, is that you are your own worst critic. So sometimes, even though I know there's detail missing here, this may be perfectly acceptable to the customer. This is what it looks like with blue ink. And remember, you can experiment with any ink color as long as it's on the darker side for the positive printer. And here is the red ink, which actually looks pretty cool. I think the red ink and the blue ink looked pretty cool. Good stuff. But here's an example of where the knit of the t-shirt has created a little bit of a moire. I'm not sure if you can see this in the camera with your computer screens and everything, because sometimes the computer screens can cause mores with this kind of thing. But we basically have some lines going across the design a little bit over here. Not so much in here, but just over here. And again, that's due to the knit. So if we wanted to avoid that, we would have to buy a higher quality ringer shirt with a tighter, smoother knit surface. That's it for today, everybody. I think we went through a lot today, and I covered a lot of stuff, did a lot of test prints for you. Here's the black ink positive printer with the black ringer. Pretty cool, right? Okay, then I did red ink with a red ringer. It's pretty cool, not bad. We did the blue ink with the blue ringer. Not bad, I like it. And then, contrastingly, we did a blue ringer with red ink, okay? And finally, a red ringer with blue ink. All right, so you can see how you can experiment, get all Andy Warhol on this crap, and with your positive film printer, your positive halftone printer, the one that's made to print black ink, you can actually put different inks through that. As long as they're on the darker side, it's still going to look like a positive. So you can experiment and get creative. And go all Warhol on it, baby! Who loves you, baby? Catspit loves you. All right? So thanks a lot for watching. Please remember that Catspit Production sells screen printing equipment and supplies. So if you need screen printing equipment and the supplies that go along with it to print t-shirts, please make sure to contact me or visit my website at catspitproductionsllc.com. Thanks a lot for watching. Please remember, if you like what you see, rate, thumbs up, and comment below. I need your support to keep continuing, to keep continuing, to continuing, to keep it, to keep it, to keep it, to keep going. Onward, forward, into the future. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate your time and attention. We'll see you next time.